EDJ, welcome back to the pod. Everyone watching, welcome back as well for our Thursday edition. We talked about the games on Monday. We're going to talk about it a little bit more because there's been a lot more to come from Buffalo since I recorded on Monday. We're going to go over AFC, NFC championship game previews. We are going to talk about the rehiring of Eric Bieniemy, and that and some more. EDJ, how you doing, buddy?
I'm sure I just felt like I let you down. I just felt like I let you down. Turned the ball over 4 times and, just tossing the ball to Damian Tomlinson's ghost behind me. Poor me. I feel so sorry for myself more than anything. Oh, loser! Man, it is so great to see somebody who it's just a good day, and this is a couple of days later, so it's just a good day.
It's a good week.
That's a good week, but let's get into it because everyone, that's just me. No, we'll talk about it. So you talked about it, and I listened to you on, I think it was Monday or Sunday night or whatever it was. You did it very well. And you basically said at some point, Josh Allen is to blame. And 4 turnovers, 4 bad turnovers, not just turnovers, 4 bad turnovers.
That one at the end of the half.
Yeah, and listen, everyone says, well, you just hate Josh Allen. Kind of. But also, you have to look at his overall record in the divisional round. He's won 2 times. And they've been how many divisional games? Was this number 7? Or 8?
I think 8, 2, and 6, I believe.
Yeah, 2 and 6, I think it was, yeah. They're 2 and 6 in the divisional round. You know who's never lost in the divisional round?
Who's that?
That guy that he's better than.
Oh,
what's his name?
That guy here in Kansas City, right?
Yeah, that guy.
The Mahomes guy.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, him. Yeah. The guy that's won 3 Super Bowls. Yeah. This is obviously coming from a rivalry place, but it's also coming from a very real place. At some point, the Buffalo Bills have to realize that this ain't on Sean McDermott. And to be honest with you, I felt like for the first time in a long time, this wasn't Sean McDermott's fault. And I think you said that the other night.
I don't think the last 2 years was Sean McDermott's fault.
Well, yeah, maybe a little. I think. Well, I guess you know that, but that's fair. I have to go back and watch that one.
3 years in a row now, Josh Allen has had the ball in his hands to win the game, to move on. 3 years in a row they've failed. Now, the first year, I'll give Josh Allen credit because he got him into field goal range, and, Buffalo's most famous 2 words rang true, wide right, right against the Chiefs in the divisional round. But these last 2 years, 100%, I think it's on Josh Allen. You had the chance to go win the game. And this is one thing that, again, like you said, we're Chiefs fans, right? We do not like the Bills. We do not like Josh Allen. It is what it is, right? It's a rivalry. So it's coming from a place of being, very real, but also, a little bit of hatred is mixed into it. But at the end of the day, if you got the ball in your hands to go win the game, who's a better person to have with the ball in their hands at the end of the game than the guy that we continue to pine for? Of the media wants to tell us that Josh Allen's the best football player in the world, right? And he's this playoff monster, but he can't get the job done when it counts. But I think we know a guy who can.
Lamar Jackson. I think that's who you're talking about. No? Oh, okay. We might talk about him later too. But listen, going back to this game, it was a very good game. It was very entertaining. And here's the flip side of it too. Everyone praised Bo Nix. Oh, Bo Nix played so well. I thought Bo Nix did not play very well. And he had 47% completion percentage. And he threw the ball, 47 times?
The bar is very low for quarterbacks outside of this top echelon, I think. Yeah, 26 of
It
46.
is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do better than that. I mean, 47% in the AFC divisional round against any other team that has a shred of a defense, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
It just kind of seemed interesting that they did that. And here's the other part that I found interesting that Joe Brady laid off of. James Cook was eaten up. I mean, he was tearing it up, and they had over, I think it was almost 180 yards of rushing before the end of regulation.
Yeah,
I mean, so what?
117 yards out of James Cook off 24
Yeah,
carries. That's 4.9 yards per carry.
and I mean to give up running the ball in a game that's tied anyway. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand, and I'm not saying that for the Bills. I'm saying that for anybody. Why are you doing that? We see that in multiple games where coordinators just give up the idea of what's working the whole time.
Yeah.
With running the ball and stuff like that. So I didn't quite understand that. And the other thing I didn't understand was on that last interception that wasn't an interception. Was it second down or first down? Because it wasn't third down.
Give me just a second, and I will look that up. So my first question to you was going to be, was it a catch?
No. And this has been argued by a lot of people. If Braden Cooks hit the ground and the ball pops out, is it a catch?
No.
Because, I mean, it looked like that's where it was headed. And he didn't have control of it when he survived the ground, or he didn't have any survive the ground. And the argument that people are making with, oh, look at Devontae Adams did with the Raiders, it's a completely different play.
Yeah, he is standing.
Devontae Adams took 4 steps, had his knee down, and the ball was taken. That's not one. That's not a fumble. 2, it's a completely different play.
Yeah, it's not even remotely close to the same thing because if you're diving for a ball and it doesn't survive the ground, obviously it's not a catch, right? If you catch the ball and run and get hit and taken to the ground and the ball pops out, it's not a fumble, right? I mean, you're down by contact.
Right.
Like, you're trying to apply. It's been so disingenuous, I think, the argument from Bills Mafia at the end of the day. And I talked about this on Monday, but I did want to get your take because, I mean, it is a hot topic of, was it a catch or was it not a catch? Initially, I totally thought it was a catch. I was watching the game with Bryce, and I remember telling him, like, that's insane. They're not going to challenge it. I mean, that's absolutely a catch. Then I saw a couple of different angles. I saw somebody on Twitter remove the Denver defender, and the ball's just, like, floating above Brandon Cooks. Like, yeah. I guess I just don't understand the thought of, like, if it doesn't survive the ground, it's not a catch, right? Well, if it doesn't survive the ground while someone's ripping it out of your hands, that constitutes for it to be a catch all of a sudden? I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah, and I think the problem is with that, and it's not necessarily the Bills fans' fault, it's just that going on national media that night, the next day, well, that was 100% a catch. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we know who we're talking about when you heard about, I mean, you can go look at it yourself who it was, but it wasn't a catch. We all know it wasn't a catch. That by rule and by definition, it's not a catch. I think I sent you one with Eric Weddle earlier today, and he was saying it's not. I mean, happened to me. It's not a catch.
Yeah,
it's just not. And
well, my favorite part was when they were showing. By the way, just to go back to what you said, it was 3rd and 11. But to go back to, there was another clip that I saw floating around that a lot of Bills fans were sharing of last year's AFC Championship game where Patrick Mahomes threw what looked like to be a pick, and then Xavier Worthy took the ball from the Bills defender in midair, and it survived the ground and all that. And the point was, hey, this was ruled this way. How is it ruled differently here? And I just thought, like, you're ruling the exact same thing. It just happens that the defender caught it first, last year, whereas the Brandon Cooks caught it first this year, and it changes possession in the air. So, I mean, they're really proving everyone else's point of this is not a catch. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think you even broke that down on the last podcast.
Yeah, I put that clip in there.
Worthy takes it from him, and it, like you said, it's the exact same play, just in different positions.
Yeah.
In the day is what it.
That was me. It happened to the Bills twice.
Well, I'm sure they'll change the rule.
Right.
So, anyway, it was third down. So that I understand what he was going for. I thought it was first or second down. So that's a little more fair. But third and 11, I'm just going to gun it down 60 yards down the field and see what happens. I understand it's a one-on-one, but you already got picked off earlier in the game for underthrowing the ball. I mean, you're going to try to take a shot there. It was close, but you're already rattled. You've been chased around all game. You've had 2 forced fumbles. It's just that was not necessary. Get the 11 yards, or you are one of the better running quarterbacks in the league. Just take off. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want the game to be in your hands and be that guy, do it yourself. And we've seen him do it a billion times. I mean, he did it against us last year in the regular season. I
Yep.
mean, it just do it. If you want to be that guy, do it. And I don't know. And we've talked about it all the time. Josh Allen has this thing in his head where if it's turned, he just loses a sensibility. And we saw it. Was it 2 years ago when they played in Buffalo in the divisional round? I think it
Yeah.
was because they had to play Baltimore the next week. Chris Jones pushed up I can't remember what offensive guard it was, um, but he pushed him into Allen, and Allen misses, I think it was Knox, by 10 yards. If he shortens up that throw, Buffalo's in the championship game.
Yeah.
You
Josh
know,
Allen
so
is not good under pressure, and
no,
that's
he's
something we've
not,
seen.
and that's what drives me crazy. And it's not, and Patrick's not. I mean, he has been. It's been a struggle this past year. So I'm not going to say Patrick's. He's not at everything, and I've said that multiple times. Patrick's not the best at everything. We know that.
Right.
But to claim this guy is the elite of the elite, the best of the best, better than Patrick, better than everybody, and then to sit there and make you watch this for 3 hours and just kind of be like, eh, and again, Josh Allen is not bad. No one is saying Josh Allen is bad. But to claim that he is this mega god who is just so untouchable and everyone should just understand that he's the best quarterback in the business, it's stupid. It's a waste of everybody's time. And I've said it
Pure
before, and I've said it.
lunacy is
It's
what it
it's just
is.
stupid to waste everybody's time to say that he's the best quarterback in the business. Oh, okay. Well, he's 2-6 in divisional rounds. You know who isn't 2-6 in divisional rounds? It's not even Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we could list a couple of guys that would knock your socks off. I think C.J. Stroud has a better record in division. Well, no, he doesn't. Never mind. I'll take that back.
No. Yeah.
C.J. Stroud was
Wild
pretty
card.
garbage.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too. But that was unfair. I'm sorry, Josh. That was unfair. That was unfair. But um, I mean, there's a couple of different guys who have better
Probably
divisional rounds
Burrow.
records.
Burrow's probably. I mean, he doesn't have an
Bro,
amount
but
of
I mean,
games, but he's probably got a better
right.
record in the divisional
And
round.
that's an argument that people keep making. Well, Burrow keeps her all the time. He does, but he's done it in less amount of games and less amount of time than Josh Allen has done nothing against. It blows my mind that we're sitting here making an argument. The guy has done nothing against Patrick Mahomes. The guy who's at least done something against
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is worse than that guy. I don't know. It just blows my mind. And let's go over turnovers one by one. So the end of the first half, it's a scramble. I don't know why he's scrambling. I think he's just trying to get yards on the play. Did they did they have timeouts? They might have. I don't remember. Um, and he's holding it in one hand like LaShawn McCoy. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? And he just kind of turns around. It's like, do you not remember that you're like 6'6", 275 pounds? Just go into it. I don't
Yeah.
know. That was a weird one. And then obviously the strip fumble, he just didn't see it coming, so fair enough, whatever you want to call it. But the 2 interceptions, I mean, the first one was just bad. I mean, you're throwing it to a too high shell safety coverage. The Broncos knew you were going to do it, but you couldn't help yourself, and it got picked off.
And
Pat
that's
does
why I go back to of like last year. Last year was the anomaly season for Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He turns the ball over a lot, and we saw that come down last year. And my take on that was, well, let's see him do it again. We have seen that this guy turns the ball over. I mean, Josh Allen is a turnover merchant. He's led the league in turnovers since he's entered the NFL. The entire league, out of everyone in the league, of every team, Josh Allen has turned the ball over more times. And if you want to say, well, all those touchdowns, well, you wouldn't need all those touchdowns. You wouldn't turn the ball over so much. Or, not to disregard, what he's done, because this doesn't take him down from being elite. But we saw who Josh Allen was on Sunday. This is Josh Allen playing Josh Allen football. Like you said, he can't help himself.
No, he can't help himself. And it's just a weird thing to see. And again, some of these guys who feel like they have to be Superman, and we see it with Patrick a lot, especially the past couple of years, they do things that aren't necessary, and we've seen it. And I'm not going to sit here and say Patrick's been perfect. He hasn't.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
We've seen some really bad throws from Patrick Mahomes in certain situations.
And that's fine, and that, but they're humans after all.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're going to be elite, then I'm just tired of this conversation. We're all tired of this conversation. I think finally the media has started to realize that maybe he's not that guy that we think he is. I mean, he's a great player, but he's not. He's Dan Marino.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
With a couple more playoff wins, really. Or Jalen Hurts with a few less.
That's a bit, to me, Jalen Hurts is at the bottom of that list, but he won a Super Bowl because of his defense. I mean, it is what it is. But and not that he didn't play well in the first Super Bowl against the Chiefs, he really did. But we can get to that later. But to me, it just seems like Josh Allen is in that weird spot where I am really good, but I'm also terrible. And everyone thinks I'm great all the time, which is not true. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to make a breathless argument again and again and again. And I watch the TikToks and I watch the media of Bills fans saying, well, we really may have had a tough year. We made it out alive, and we were the 5th seed, and it's just hard to beat the 1 seed. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not hard. You're playing a young Broncos team who's second year up, who you are playing the worst quarterback out of all the quarterbacks in the playoffs remaining. I mean, I in my opinion, I feel like it was, but no, I feel like Sam Darnold is playing better than Bo Nix. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
To me, it just felt like if you're going to be the number 1 guy, and if you're going to go on the road, and you're going to get the job done, then go get it done.
Yeah.
And then don't sit there as a fan base and go, well, it was just so hard because we were the 5th seed and blah 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 blah. No. This was your opportunity.
Yeah.
To submit Josh's legacy as the guy. And not only did he almost lose in the very first round, shocker, he lost in the next round in 2 overtime games. Not 1, but 2. Or no. Was Jacksonville overtime? No, it wasn't.
I think they won right at the end of the 4th.
Yeah, very close to the second overtime game.
It almost went to overtime. Yeah, because that last pick. Yeah.
That's right.
Quarter.
Yeah. So 2 games that came down to the very end of the very wire, and you can't put Jacksonville and Denver away? Come on, Bob.
Well, I will say that while I agree with everything you're saying, I think that Denver was the perfect storm for Josh Allen because that defense presents all of the issues that Josh Allen has in his game. He's not good against pressure. He's not really great at improvising, honestly. And that's one thing where I'll say, like you said about Patrick Mahomes, is he's not the best at everything, and no, he's not. But he is the best improviser in the league. I don't think there's a single quarterback that is better at improvising than Patrick Mahomes. Lamar may be a close second, but even with Lamar, I feel like he's more limited when he's improvising. He's trying to run. When Patrick is trying to improvise, he's kind of reminds me of Vince Young back in the day. And, I know kind of a wild comparison, but Vince Young was very much a pass-first quarterback. You would see him run around and try to find somebody open rather than just immediately running. And Patrick runs when he needs to, or if the game's on the line and, you've got 7 drop balls between MVS, Juju, and Travis Kelce, the hell with it. I'm just going to take off and get these 10 yards. I mean, that Tennessee game a couple of years ago, I think that was 2023, I want to say. But I mean, it was literally Patrick Mahomes against the Tennessee Titans on offensively. Patrick Mahomes willed that game, and they won that game on the back of Patrick Mahomes. Nobody else really did anything in that game.
Well, I think that was the Patrick coming back from an injury, wasn't it? That was his first game back.
Might have been. It might have been. I don't know if he
I-
really
I-
has missed any time other than the dislocated knee in 2019, though.
No, I feel like because he had that ankle problem, remember? And I think
Yes,
he
I don't
missed
know
a
if he
couple
had it at
games.
that point yet.
So somebody's for. I feel like it was maybe not. I don't know, but I
Yeah,
feel like
I
it
think
could
that
have
was
been.
more
But
the
either way,
playoffs. Yeah.
maybe.
Well, last thing that I'll
Um,
say about this real quick, though, is this is Peyton Manning's 2004 AFC Championship game all over again, in my opinion. Because you look at Peyton Manning threw the 4 picks against the Patriots. Ty Law picked him off twice. Hell, the whole Patriots defense picked him off in that game pretty much. And the narrative around him was Peyton can't win the big one. Peyton can't do it. Took him a couple more years to get back and, finally able to win a Super Bowl. But I think that's exactly where Josh Allen is right now. Like, he cannot win the big one. Let's be honest. He cannot win in the playoffs. He's shown us that time and time again. He can't beat. I don't even want to say the big dogs because this season has proved that he can't beat anyone in the playoffs. It's almost like I'll make an MMA reference of like Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone, one of the best fighters in the UFC for years, very top of the lightweight division. Put him in a title fight and he folds. I don't know what it is about it psychologically, but I think that might be, part of the problem. And we talked about it last week. Josh Allen starts these games out slow. He doesn't look good generally early in the game. He works his way into it, and he has had some great playoff performances. Let me not take anything away, but calling him like this playoff monster or playoff, whatever, he's perfect in the playoffs. So whatever this BS narrative has been the last few weeks, blew up in everybody's faces, and I think that we're just here to enjoy it at this point. But I don't know. Somewhere right now, Dan Orlovsky's still making excuses. Anyways, to transition from that, unless you have something else to add to that.
Well, I want to track back on what you said real quick on the Denver defense. That you are correct on that. Denver was the best matchup for him defensively, because of Josh's lack of ability to have that sense of calm in the time of the storm. It seems, we saw it last year at Arrowhead in the divisional game or no championship game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He fumbled like 7 times. Somehow fell on every single one. Though I guess the Bills did, but he fumbled at least 5. And he fell on every single one of them. And it's just kind of like, what is your deal? And he missed receivers, he missed guys, and Arrowhead's much louder than Mile High. Trust me. So it's a different animal. But I just don't understand. I just don't understand. And Josh is really talented. No one is saying he's not.
Yeah.
But to sit here and just it's baffling. It's baffling that somebody as talented as Josh Allen just doesn't have it. I don't know. It's baffling. I feel. Well, I don't feel bad for any of them, but I at least understand the heartbreak of playoffs. I mean, if we're talking about heartbreak of playoffs, we could write a book about it. I mean, just again and again and again. But
Absolutely.
It just kind of seems like that franchise as a whole is just completely snake bitten. I mean, just bad turnovers, wide right, wide left, and just bad moments. And I don't know if McDermott being gone will fix it. Obviously, we're going to get into that here just now, but it's baffling. It really is.
So the fallout from Buffalo, yeah, that's what I wanted to get into next. We have seen now Sean McDermott be fired after the game. We have seen, I'm going to get it, Brandon Beane get a promotion, which just even the talks from the owner. That was earlier today that all of those clips were coming out of the owner of the Bills talking and just saying, maybe we got this right, maybe we didn't. Second guessing himself, which I do feel shows a little bit of transparency, not to just pile it on the Bills franchise. That I do think that they're at a point where they are lost. Is what we've gotten out of this week. The Bills as an organization is lost. They cannot figure out why, but I think it goes back to kind of what I said Monday. Or maybe this was a comment that I made, but I did to somebody that just kept telling me it was a catch. And I said, the Bills will end up in this situation every single year because what the Bills lack is the ability to look in the mirror. The Bills lack the true accountability. They might be the least accountable team in the NFL at this point, for the amount of talent that they have, how deep they go in the season every year. There's no accountability there. And every single year we've seen a rule changed over something about Buffalo. Whether it was the coin toss changing that the Chiefs advocated for in 2018 that the Bills voted no on. And then came back to haunt them a few years later. All of a sudden the rule has to change because Josh Allen couldn't touch the ball. Well, guess what? We've seen Josh Allen touch the ball 3 years in a row to win the game, and he couldn't get it done. So that's not the problem. The problem is with your quarterback. The problem is something on the coaching staff. And maybe McDermott, leaving is good. But now you're behind the 8 ball. You're behind everybody else going out here getting coaches. McDermott's already, or not McDermott, Harbaugh. He's already been hired in New York. Stefanski's already gone to Atlanta. Mike McDaniel has already been hired as OC in L.A. There's, a lot of offensive minds that you would like to see paired with Josh Allen if they're going to have success are gone. So what do you make of this, EDJ, and what do you feel, or how do you feel about the Bills' future?
Well, after today and watching that owner and Beane just hurl McDermott and Allen under the bus, or not really Allen, but McDermott, it just is so weird. I that would be like Clark Hunt basically claiming he's the reason we won 3 Super Bowls. It's weird. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you sat at the podium and said, "Oh, well, my decision was based off of the loss in Denver." You sure? You sure it wasn't year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 of losing? I mean, honestly, McDermott should have been gone 2 years ago. And not because it was necessarily on him, but if you just keep losing in the playoffs, I don't think it's going to magically happen. And everyone points to, well, look at what Andy did against it. Well, that's different. I mean, we can admit that's a different ballgame.
Is there
But
somebody that could do that, though? Maybe Mike Tomlin? You get Mike Tomlin persuaded to go to
yeah,
Buffalo?
but
I mean, maybe.
I just don't know if you make that lateral move. It
Right.
just kind of seems like McDermott and Tomlin are basically the same guy. Tomlin's more
Yeah.
successful because he has the ring and has been to 2, but whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, they're the same kind of coach. Very defensive,
Yeah.
very smart defensive coaches. But you need an offensive coach. But everyone's saying, well, maybe just they'll go out and get Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, did you not see the mess he just left New York in?
Okay.
You
Okay.
know,
First
it's
of
just
all, first of all, listen. No, I gotta unpack that because I mentioned
yeah.
Dable on Monday. That is not Dable's fault. I don't think. I think Dable's a
Mm,
good coach. You got a terrible GM that I don't understand how he still has a job. I think that the GM in New York still has a job. Yeah, because he came out and said, well, they let you fail here. That's a bad organization then. If they're going to let you fail over and over. You lost Saquon, and then the video that came out of it, like, well, we'll let you know if you really want to be a giant. Who the hell wants to be a giant? What do you mean? Yeah, I'd like to go win a Super Bowl. Brian Dable took him all the way to the playoffs with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. So, just a little pushback on Dable. That's all.
that's true. But I mean, it just kind of seems like with Barkley, and he did do a good job with Daniel Jones the first year. I think he really showed, and then it just kind of seemed like Daniel Jones fell off a wagon. So I don't know. I think it's blamable on both sides. If you had the potential on that team, because I don't think a lot of people left. The only person that left was Barkley, and we all know running backs can be replaceable to a point. I mean, it's not like running backs are irreplaceable; they sure are. Um, it just kind of seemed like after Barkley left and after Daniel Jones kind of had his fall apart, it's kind of like, what was that? Because he was doing a great job, and the Giants were remarkable. Well, not remarkable, but way better than they have been.
Remarkable for making the
Um,
playoffs with the roster that they had that
yes,
year. Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. And there's talking about Dayball, and there's talking about Joe Brady, and listen, and not that Joe Brady's a bad offensive coordinator, he's clearly not. But are you really going to hire the guy that's called plays and made you lose every year? I don't know if you do that. Um, hey, I heard Matt Nagy's looking for a job.
There you go.
You
Hire
know,
my.
why
The one
not?
thing I will say about
Um,
Joe Brady though is that I think Joe Brady actually understands who Josh Allen is, because Joe Brady the last couple of years he cut out the turnovers last year. I don't know how many turnovers off the top of my head Allen had this year, but he's the one that's established this great run game. He understands that. These are the things that Allen needs to be truly successful.
yes, I do agree, and I'm not saying he was. I think it's a decent hire for somebody. I just don't know if you go out and get the guy who you've lost with every year already.
And that's
What are you
fair,
going to do?
yeah.
Promote him and lose again? I don't know. I
Absolutely.
think that's kind of hard to do.
First up on Sunday, we have the number 1 seeded Broncos against the number 2 seeded Patriots. And I don't know if there's been a year that I can remember where the 1 and 2 seeds met in the championship game, and I thought, these are not the two best teams. In which they may be the two best teams in the AFC. I mean, I'm not just trying to dunk on these teams, but it just does not feel like an AFC championship game on Sunday.
No, is it Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday. Sunday at 2 p.m. for the AFC championship game.
Okay,
And
so they're doing them
NFC.
both on one day.
Yeah. Usually every year
Okay.
they do them the same day. 2 and 5:30 is the split,
Okay.
which I always hate when I'm going to the games because you're gonna miss the NFC championship
Oh, that's
game
right.
if you're out there. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm on a different level
I
now.
get it.
But
They've changed the schedule up these last few years, especially Wild Card
yeah,
Weekend
which I don't
adding
really
Monday Night
understand.
Football.
Why would you not want two different championship games on two different days? I don't know. But either way, um,
It's not a bad point.
yes, I agree with you, and it makes it worse because Jared Stidham's the quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's and that's not a dog at Jared Stidham. It's just kind of like, okay, here we go, I guess. Um, and I've heard analysts say, well, I'm just kind of glad it's Jared Stidham because honestly, Jared Stidham is the same as Bo Nix. Well, that's kind of an insult to Bo Nix, don't you think? It's kind of like, well, that guy who's been your backup for 7 years is just as good as you are. It's like, okay, well, thanks,
Yeah.
I guess. You
Right.
know, um, uh, it's it could get ugly, and it could get bad for the Broncos, and I don't know, the Broncos could shock you and win this game and go on to the Super Bowl with Jared Stidham and have the Nick Foles magic of a couple years ago. The Eagles, who knows? They could. I don't know, but the my concern would be that Patriots defense is really, really good, like really good. And watching them play the Texans, obviously CJ Stroud is. I sent you that meme earlier today, but it just kind of seems like CJ Stroud in the playoffs is an absolute no show, which is kind of surprising because he was a prime time in college. He was in all the big games and played phenomenal, and it's and everyone was amazed on how little he turned the ball over. He turned the ball over 4 times, and I think he fumbled a couple times too. I mean, he had like 6 turnovers. It
Yeah.
was horrendous.
It was bad.
Um,
I think that second year he
and
lost his confidence, and I think that's his biggest
yeah,
problem, honestly.
yeah, and the Texans don't necessarily have a knockout offense either. So I mean, it's not
Yeah.
all on him, I suppose. But it's just odd when you talk about a guy who everyone praised for his ball control and his IQ and his level, and you watch that and it kind of goes, huh?
Right.
It was ugly. But the Patriots defense is that good. They
Yeah.
get pressure on you. They take the ball away. That secondary and watching those package mix-ups like you were talking about, those are nasty. They're confusing. CJ Stroud, you could see in his eyes. They would zoom in on his face. He had no idea what the fuck was going on half the time. He was just very confused. And that's what Variable does. He confuses you. Variable laid out the blueprint for Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. If you remember right, Variable was, I think, the first guy to play Lamar in the playoffs, and we saw it.
Yeah,
That's
I think so.
yeah, and we saw it. Variable showed you the best way to beat Lamar Jackson. So Variable knows how to beat quarterbacks and knows how to beat teams. So and to mix all that stuff in with Stroud and to force the ball, and yeah, that weather was nasty. The weather was nasty in LA, and or I'm sorry, in Chicago against LA too. But it just kind of seems like we're waiting for the Patriots to pull away in this game. I can't see this being any close. And Drake May didn't play great. There was it was not great for him either.
No,
Um,
I think that you have the ability to see like a 6-3 game on Sunday. I mean,
yeah,
depending on how much the defenses take over of the Patriots and the Broncos, because yeah, Drake May did not look good against the Texans defense. And look, I've talked, tremendously about the Houston Texans defense over the last couple of weeks, and they are the best in the NFL. They're the best at getting pressure. They're That's a juggernaut of a defense, right? So I get he went up against the toughest defense, but at the same time, like you expect, he did make some plays happen here and there. So let me not just poo all over Drake May's performance, but you gotta have some ball security. And I know it's tough to hold on to the ball when you got a grown man, hitting the ball while you're not looking, out of your hand. But for it to happen that many times, I don't know, man. Like you got to start being ready for those moments, get that
yeah.
clock going in your head.
Well, and I think that comes with age and experience. We saw it. I think
I
with
agree.
Patrick in this first year a little bit in the playoffs. He's antsy. He's antsy in the pocket. We
Yeah.
saw it in the first half against Tom Brady in the playoffs. It looked like Patrick was going to have a bad night, turn around. But it for a young guy, it's tough. It's tough to learn in the playoffs,
Yes.
and it's tough. You know, and the Patriots have a lot of good offensive pieces. I've heard people say, well, the Patriots offense isn't that good. I I disagree. I think it's pretty good. I mean, you have Diggs, you have both those really good running backs. So I think there's pieces in place for them to be pretty dang good offense. It's just the problem is that now you're going to go into Mile High. A It's kind of like obviously very two different scenarios, but it's kind of like when the Chiefs went into LA after the LA fires, right? A very unfortunate situation. That place, if the Chiefs were going to win that game, they were going to need a miracle, right? And it was one of the best games of all time. But it just kind of feels like the Patriots might run into that situation in Denver where you have that, it's us versus everybody, everybody on deck. We got to get this for, Bo, and that's nerve-wracking if you're a Patriots fan because it doesn't take much for a young team to fall behind people,
Yeah.
and especially when you're doing this big moment and this is one win away from your first Super Bowl ever for both sides, or not both sides, but Jared Stidham and Drake May, and it's just kind of like, well, we might we could lose. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. It's very tough to judge this game right now, and for all we know, the Patriots could win by 45. I don't know. It's been that kind of year where you just have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, and if a defense
Um,
scores here or there, I mean, we saw it against the Patriots on Sunday. At 21
right.
to 16, I thought that the Texans legitimately still, could win that game, and I, kind
Hmm.
of thought they were going to end up winning that game just with how good their defense was. I mean, you cause a turnover in the red zone, you got 3 points automatically, which is what kind of ended up happening with Houston. They kept getting field goals off of turnovers, but if the Patriots can't do anything against the Broncos and they get a couple of drives where you get a turnover, on their side of the field and you're able to rack up 2 or 3 field goals out of it at least. You get one play that hits where Cortland Sutton's breaking down the field one-on-one or something like that. I mean, I don't think that it's going to take a ton to win this game when it comes to scoring-wise. Or you get a fumble and somebody runs it back. That's another possibility. So, I mean, if the defenses can score, I mean, I think Denver definitely has a chance to win this game. Am I going to predict for them to win this game? Absolutely not. But I do think there's a pathway to victory for the Broncos in this game.
Well, if you remember right, we talked about the Broncos Bills game. We said it's winnable for both sides. So we're not just
Mm-hmm.
sitting here trashing the Bills. It is a losable game for both teams.
Absolutely.
Um, but I think it's the same scenario here. I think it's a losable game for both teams. I think it's a much more winnable game for the Patriots and I think it'd be kind of weird if they didn't win. But like you said, if the Patriots can get 17 points on the board, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't foresee this going into a situation where it's 24-24 with 2 minutes left and Jared Stidham has the ball. I don't see it. I didn't think the Broncos' run game was all that great against Buffalo, and Buffalo had the worst run defense in football. So that's an issue the Broncos are going to have to figure out against one of the better run defenses in football. That's an issue because
Yeah.
if I were Sean Payton, I thought he was going to run the ball for 4 quarters. I even said that on the show. I feel like Sean Payton is going to run the ball for 4 quarters, and they couldn't really. And I thought that was
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised by that. Um, but yeah, I think the Patriots will win this game.
Yeah. Bo Nix
I
led the
think it.
Broncos in rushing yards last weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I think it'll be boring. I think it'll probably be like 17-14, if that, if we're lucky. It just kind of seems like the Patriots can make this game pretty easy for them if Drake May holds on to the ball, and I think he'll turn it over. I mean, the Broncos force turnovers.
Yeah.
They're a very good defense. So
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think Drake May will have maybe 2 turnovers in this game, but I think they'll probably knock it out 20-14, maybe, if we're lucky.
Well, I do like that thought and the game theory you have there because I think it's going to be similar. Basically what you said. I think it's going to be a challenge for the Broncos to move the ball. I think we're going to see pretty much what we saw last week. I'm going to go 13-6. Patriots get the win, but I think that they're smart. They try to control the clock for the most part, get what they can out of the Denver defense, and they're going to be able to make a play here and there, whether it's Kayshon Boutte or Stefon Diggs or maybe even Hunter Henry in this game. Hunter Henry might be a good target just for the simple fact that you're going to have PS2 on one side and is it McLaughlin on the other side? I mean, they've got a very good secondary, and maybe you can exploit something with maybe a little bit of 12 personnel, have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper out there, see what you can do. I don't know. But I got 13-6. Patriots take the AFC Championship game. All right, so I am happy that this game is the second game of the weekend because it is definitely the main event of the weekend in the NFC Championship game. And I've said this, I think I said this on Monday already. Whoever wins this game has got my pick to win the Super Bowl unless the Broncos somehow win and miraculously Bo Nix comes back. Although, I don't know how much that really gives to the Broncos. We'll see on Sunday how much different they are. But PFF has the Seahawks ranked as the number 1 overall team in the league and the Rams at number 2. How you feeling about the NFC Championship game, EDJ?
It's going to be fun. It's teams that have known each other very well over the past few years. Obviously, they're in the same division. Um, I think this will be one of the better games we've seen in a couple of years.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems like this is two teams who know, obviously, I just said it, know each other, and they just know how to compete. Watching Seattle dismantle the Niners, and I mean, to be fair, the Niners had absolutely nobody at the end of the day. Come on, it is what it is.
Yeah.
41-6 probably doesn't happen to the Niners are fully healthy. I think the Seahawks still win that game, but I think it's much closer.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but damn, Seattle looked good. Just absolutely dominant. It's the best defense in football. Um, I think we say the Texans have been the best defense in football. I think it's Seattle and Houston. I think those are two best defenses. I think probably split
Yeah.
between the two. Um,
Yeah, I think Seattle, they might have the best defense left.
well, they definitely do. I would not argue that one bit. The Rams have the worst defense left, and that's a problem
Yeah.
because the other, the one of the two teams they'll play is probably the third or fourth best defense in football. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an issue for LA. Um, this was just an interesting matchup in general because I think a lot of people felt like the Bears should have won that game. Do what you may with that. It just kind of seemed like the Bears had a really good shot. And honestly, Stafford kind of played like garbage.
He
And he
did.
didn't play very
Yes.
well. And the cold is not favor to Matt Stafford, obviously. Um, it it just was not a good game by the Rams offense. It just kind of seemed, and it just and the Bears and Caleb Williams. And listen, I think Caleb Williams showed me that he has a potential to really be something. And I don't get to watch the Bear games, and the games I've watched, he hasn't been very good, but and he wasn't overly impressive in this game. Let's call it what it is. He wasn't that great, but he made plays when it mattered. And that pass, and I even texted you and said that was unreal. I've never seen anything like that in my life. That was very Mahomes-ish.
Yeah.
And a lot of luck. I don't know what those two safeties were doing. They were both right there. I don't understand what either of them were doing. But, it's that was impressive. I'll give him that. It was about a 50-yard on one foot, it kind of seemed, falling backwards, and he hit him right in the hands.
Yeah,
I'll give him that.
Yeah, I made sure to put the clip from the All-22 angle on there just to show what an insane throw that was on the Monday podcast. And, I think you're absolutely right. Caleb Williams made plays when he needed to. Maybe he didn't play the best, but I think that, that's what we love out of Patrick Mahomes when we see him. Sometimes, go back to that first Super Bowl. It wasn't great until he had to be great, you know what I mean? And, I said to you on Thursday, and I know I kind of went back to this on Monday, but now with you back here, I compared them to the 2019 Chiefs. This might be the 2018 Chiefs. Now, the loss in overtime in the playoffs. I mean, they don't get to the championship game, but, I think the Bears are going to be a scary team next year.
They have the potential to be. I mean, with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and Luther Burden, who, and I was looking at his stats in the regular season, and again, rookies can develop late. We've seen it with the Chiefs and Rice and Worthy and guys like that.
Yeah.
But if you look at Burden's season in the regular season, it was pretty lackluster. It wasn't very good.
Definitely emerged there towards the end of the season. I agree with you.
But
better for next year,
Right. Yeah, and he is trending upward at the right time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of guys who do that, and Luther Burden looked really good in the playoffs in both games.
Going back to the Rams, shout out to Harrison Mevis with the game winner.
Yeah, how about that? Harrison Mevis. Yeah, a guy who was a really good kicker.
Yeah.
And, got sent down to USFL or whatever, UFL, whatever it is now. And then got signed by the Rams, and I would assume would have a job with the Rams. I don't know why they would get rid of him at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
and he was on the Jets practice squad earlier this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. So I would assume he would. I don't know what else you'd have to do to get a job, but I would assume that would be enough for. I don't know. The NFL's weird.
At least see what you got next year.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of this game, Sam Darnold worries me because it's still Sam Darnold. I mean, and I like Sam Darnold. And I think he's proven a lot of people wrong, that he can be a good quarterback and he can win games. And, look what he did with the Vikings last year. Look what he's done with the Seahawks this year. Can you do it again? And then can you do it again? It's just, I think that's Sam Darnold's biggest question mark is, can you repeat the same thing over and over and over? We're about to find out. But for his luck, it's a team he knows. So I don't think anything the Rams throw at him are going to be a surprise to him. It's just, can he capitalize and finish? For the Rams, they just got to go out and execute. I mean, to me, and someone said this the other day, which I was on the fence about it, but after thinking about it, I kind of agree. The Rams have been the worst team in the playoffs that have been winning.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams have been bad. They barely escaped Carolina. They barely escaped Chicago, and now they have to go in and play a team they play every year twice. So this is not an easy path for the Rams, and I think the Rams win the Super Bowl. But it just kind of seems like we're at that point where if the Rams don't pick it up, they might get smacked around. I don't know how you feel about that, but after watching Seattle play, and they just seem to be so, I'm trying to think of the right word, kind of like Indiana in a way. They just seem very well-oiled, no mistakes. They just know what they're doing. They know what the assignment is. They know how to play. And that would be very nerve-wracking if I was a Rams fan right
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, but I also think looking at it in, broader sense of Seattle did play a banged up team in the 49ers. Look, I know that they played banged up all year and they got here to the playoffs, but I don't know if that's a great representation. And not to say that Seattle's not firing on all cylinders, because I'm leaning Seattle in this game. Going back to Sam Darnold, the big thing with him, kind of the same knock with Josh Allen. You put pressure on him, he folds, and we have seen that time and time again. And the Rams did that earlier this season, if you recall. The game they won 21-19, and that was week 8, I believe, week 11, somewhere in there. I don't have it pulled up right there now, but this was, I think, week 11 in November, where Sam Darnold threw 4 picks, 29-44, 279, 4 interceptions. Matt Stafford didn't have a great game himself in that game, 15-28, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then we had that insane Thursday night game later on in the year. Yeah, that was week 11. But later on in the year, that insane Thursday night game where, was it the Rams? I think the Rams were just whooping up on Seattle, and Seattle came back and ended up winning the game in just
now. Oh, that's
insane
right.
fashion. Yeah, one of the most exciting games of the season. So I don't know, man. Like, there's it. One thing I always say is division games are weird, and adding the playoffs on top of that, everything's getting weird on Sunday night. Like, is my take on it. Really, because that game was insane. Sam Darnold in that game, exactly right on point. For, I don't know what his over under is looking at it, but for all you gamblers out there, 270 yards. So 279 and 270 is what he put up against the Rams defense in both games. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the last game. But Matt Stafford, the last time he saw the Seattle defense, 29 of 49 for 457 and 3 touchdowns. So we have data on these teams from playing twice this season, but I think the real question is, how does that play out and how does that translate to Sunday? We saw the Seahawks get the best of the Rams late in that game and trending that way, and I think they're the more put together team, and they're like a well-oiled machine, and I think, you comparing them to Indiana is perfect, because that's exactly what we saw out of Indiana through this run and how they played. Yeah, it was 30-14 at one point, came back to win 38-37. So I don't know, man. It comes down to, can you get the pressure on Sam Darnold, I think, for the Rams? And can you, if you're Seattle, replicate some of what Chicago did? Because they did cause a lot of problems for Matt Stafford that was surprising to me to even get back into that game. The defense played a big role in that, getting stops. So I do think that, what am I trying to say? The plans, like an architect. The architect is there. The blueprints. There we go. I had
There
to
you
talk
go.
that one
Game
through.
plan, blueprint, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
you got the blueprint is there for both sides, but I just feel, I feel the same way as you do. As I feel strongly about Seattle right now. I think Seattle is just playing on a different level at this point in time, and I think they roll on to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna go with the 24. Let's say 24-21. They get a last-second field goal to walk it off in regulation.
I don't know.
It's a tough one.
I
It's a
agree
tough one
with
to call.
I agree with you pretty much. The problem is, and you pointed it out, if Sam Darnold gets pressure on him, I think Seattle's in trouble.
Yeah.
And Chardonnay, Chardonnay's out for the rest of the year, which is
True.
a huge loss for Seattle. I think I might have just made my point for myself. With Chardonnay being out, I think the Rams can win this game, and not that Kenneth Lahr can't do it. I just feel like that, the Walker and the double combos is so deadly for the Seahawks. Um, I've said it all year. The Rams have the best receiver core. They have the best coach. No, I wouldn't say the best quarterback, but if we're talking quarterbacks left, I'd say he's probably the best quarterback, obviously. Um, I think the Rams get this done. I think it'll be close. I don't see Seattle's defense playing as well as they could. I'll go 28-17. I think the Rams get enough pressure on Darnold to get it done. I think Stafford wants his second ring before he retires, which he could retire for this ring, to be honest with you. I think he
Yeah,
might. Um, so I think Stafford has something to prove, and I think both these teams see blood in the water. And I think you've said it perfectly. I think whoever wins this game uh, is picturing themselves with a little Marty trophy. So I think Stafford gets it done 28-17. I think the Rams scoop by.
absolutely. And to your point, I just went back to look this up because I was thinking in my head. It was like, who did Minnesota play last year? And I kind of thought I think it was the Rams. And going back to look, it was the Rams, 27-9 in that game that I forgot was played at State Farm Stadium because of the fires that was going on in LA last year. Kind of something that just slipped my whole memory, really. But so the Rams, they did it last year in the playoffs, and they beat Darnold, and they destroyed him with the pressure. Where a lot of people thought that was Darnold even going to get a deal at that point after seeing his playoff performance, but I think that he earned it, and I've been high on Sam Darnold since last year. So I either way, yeah, I like you said, I think whoever wins this game wins the Super Bowl. EDJ, you got the Rams. I'm rolling with the Seahawks. We'll see who we have to watch in San Francisco in a couple of weeks this Sunday. Last but not least, we got to talk some Chiefs football. I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since we've had real substance about Chiefs football to talk. But the man is back. Eric Bieniemy is officially back as the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Honestly, I couldn't be more elated. EDJ, how do you feel about the hiring of Eric Bieniemy?
Well, I wasn't sure, initially after kind of thinking it over, it just kind of seemed like, well, the same voice again.
Mm-hmm.
But after hearing what other people have said and reading some tweets from different Chiefs, former Chiefs players who are, within the organization or around the organization, this seems like the best move for them in terms of accountability. We talked about that at the top of the show with Buffalo. If you
Yeah,
don't have accountability, you don't have anything. It just kind of seemed like the whole Chiefs team's attitude was lackluster this year. It was kind of lazy.
absolutely.
Everyone was wearing the free Rasheed Rice shirts, which was a bad move. It just kind of seemed like all that stuff that the Chiefs weren't known for in terms of being loud, and being not, just to tighten up, kind of fell apart. And I think that happens with teams, especially after they get successful. But it just seemed like that wasn't happening with the Chiefs until this year. It just seemed very kind of weird, that something like that would happen. But I think EB is going to bring accountability and is going to tell Andy no. And I think we saw that. Remember in that Colts game when Patrick was fighting with EB and everyone wanted EB gone? It's like, well, how dare he fight with Patrick Mahomes? Well, somebody needs to because
Yeah,
Matt Nagy wasn't. And look what happened.
yeah,
So I think it's time to bring somebody back who'll tell Andy that's stupid, or let's do this instead. Andy's the play caller, but at the end of the day, I think it's time to bring somebody else in. Apparently, the Chiefs fired everybody offensively for the most part.
pretty much.
Um, we talked about this um, at the top, or before we recorded, about the receivers coach. The Chiefs fired their offensive assistant as well. Matt Nagy will not be coming back. I think we'd all be shocked if he came back.
No more breather plays. We get real running
Yeah,
plays in Kansas City again. We
yeah,
have a
that
running
too.
back as our
Yeah,
offensive coordinator. And,
right.
even to go to just some of the little things that Eric Bieniemy, look at DeAndre Swift. Look at DeAndre Swift in 2024 versus 2025. Different running back. You know why? Eric Bieniemy was the running back coach in Chicago this last year. And when I put that together like this past week, because honestly, I didn't even realize he was in Chicago until maybe a couple of weeks ago with the Bears. And, not only that, but also coming from that locker room and the comparisons that I've made of that team just kind of feels like the 18-19 Chiefs. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's brewing. Like, bring Bieniemy back. It's the smartest choice. It's somebody you've already had there. And I wouldn't have mind some of the other choices like a Cliff Kingsbury which for Buffalo, maybe that's your head coach, but or a Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel seems so exciting to throw in as offensive coordinator, but I think it goes back to exactly what you talked about, EDJ, was can you tell Andy no? That's what we need out of an offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Is we need somebody to tell Andy and Patrick no, and I think that I have such a different appreciation for Eric Bieniemy, and because I don't know if you remember the hit piece that was put out after the Bengals loss, but there was a hit piece that was put out that was super odd, super anonymous, but it had to come from somebody or, someone in the building, right? And whether it was all fabricated just to make EB look bad or, whatever it was. But I felt like there was some validity to that piece just in the sense of what happened in that Bengals game. And, the frustrations grew. And I think that even going back to it where, I'm sure Andy, Pat, anybody on that offensive sideline probably has a different feel and view of that, even if it was that before where Bieniemy kind of screwed us over and, he doesn't want to do all these things. But that also then goes back to, like, the result of that play before the half that the Chiefs don't kick a field goal and they go for it and they run this play that just sucked, really. Tyreek kind of turns wrong, ends the half with no points, and that set the stage for the Bengals comeback. So, I don't know. I think you hit it on the head that Bieniemy is there to tell Andy no, get some structure going with this team again, and I think that the guys in KC are excited. I mean, you heard what Travis said on the podcast, which also I feel like kind of alluded to that he is going to come back, just for the simple fact that he said, I can't wait to see him in the building again. What do you mean by that? So, yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I'm elated to see Eric Bieniemy back. So the other big news for the Chiefs is wide receivers coach being replaced. Chad O'Shea has officially signed on with Kansas City Chiefs and will be the next wide receivers coach for the Chiefs. Now, what I do think is significant about this is the fact that just the wide receiver coach that helped Julian Edelman become, the receiver that he was, and all of those guys in New England. And I feel like the Chiefs system has kind of went to that, kind of that style that the Patriots had winning those late Super Bowls with Tom Brady, of more of a dink and dump and, let's find an opening and, get somebody open for a run after the catch, and that kind of style. So I do like that. The only problem with Chad O'Shea is the fact that he's been with the Browns the last, it was like 5 or 6 years, and they haven't really produced any receiver talent. So I'm worried about anybody they bring in with Chad O'Shea, but maybe like the guys like Rashee Rice, or if somebody they could bring in through free agency. I guess before I was talking about the draft and younger guys, but maybe if you can pick up some veterans through the offseason, 1 or 2, I don't know, Hollywood Brown, maybe bring him back. Maybe that would be successful pairing with Chad O'Shea. But, all in all, I really like what the Chiefs have done over the past week or so with the coaching. EDJ, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's been a good move. Whoever in the world the wide receiver coach was at the time, they interviewed him like one time, and it was a terrible interview. If you want to go watch that, he just had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah, I'm excited. I think any change the Chiefs have offensively is good. And not only did he need new voices, he needed new direction in a way. It just kind of seems like the Chiefs' direction was getting pretty stale. Not a lot of consistency. So I think EB coming in is new and is not new, but is good.
Refreshed.
You talked about that hit piece that was out a couple of years ago. Kind of seems like Nagy wasn't held to the same standard in terms of accountability. So all in all, I think the Chiefs, I'm excited like you. I think the Chiefs have made good moves. Now, in terms of players, it'll be interesting to see who they go out and get in the draft and free agency. I don't know, but I think it's optimistically good for the Chiefs. So yeah, I think everything has turned out as well as it could have for the Chiefs.
I agree. Well, EDJ, I think that pretty much covers it all. I'm excited about the games this weekend. Excited about the futures for the Chiefs. We've got a couple more weeks, and we'll be full on into draft season, and pitchers and catchers reporting too. So I appreciate you for joining, and until next week, we'll see you.
Thanks, buddy.